Hello guys, Shane Pierre, and today we're going to be reviewing Batman #3. Let's get into it. Character name Huston Graves. He's recording on his mom's phone doing a civics project, interviewing this old lady named Miss Marjorie. I guess I'm saying it right. I guess Miss Marjorie. He's asking her questions like, how's Gotham changed in her lifetime? Because she's like, she's an old head, you know what I'm saying? And and as he was doing the interview with Miss Marjorie, they heard gunshots outside of the apartment, where she was living at and stuff like that. Huston looks out the window. He steps out the balcony. Miss Marjorie's like, no, come back inside. And he just starts recording what's happening. And, what you see is what happened in the last book. In book 2, Huston records Batman and Robin, leaving the scene after he got shot in the head with that shotgun by that cop. And they just drive away. And yeah. And as he was recording the crime scene, the investigators looking over the dead bodies and everything that happened after that night, which was crazy. Commissioner Savage walks up into the crime scene and he goes over that dead cop's body and stuff, and Huston records him planting a batarang, next to the dead cop's body. So he's pretty much gonna frame Batman for that murder and stuff like that. Next scene is up in the hospital where one of the cops survived, and you see Commissioner Savage go up to that cop, and he's just like intimidating him, like trying to get a statement out of that cop. And he's like trying to say that, pretty much like have him have a confession saying that Batman was on the scene, and he was, to go along with framing him and stuff like that, to have a witness or whatever. And like Savage is just like pushing down on like his oxygen tank, so he couldn't breathe. And like, the nurse comes up and is like, hey, step away from him and stuff like that. And he's like, yeah, you're gonna need your breath to have, the statement that he needs to hear. So yeah. Same hospital, Bruce pulls up. I guess it's the same hospital. Bruce pulls up with some flowers because Tim's in there, healing as well. And his boyfriend Bernard, I guess that's his boyfriend, and he's chilling in there with with Tim. And Bernard's just like, before Bruce could even get into the room and give Tim the flowers, Bernard's like, hey, step out here with me for a second. And he's like, why every time you guys go on a boys trip or you guys be chilling, Bernard's like, why is Tim always getting injured or getting hurt and stuff like that, pretty much. And he's very upset with Bruce, about that. So he's just like, Bernard like snatches his flowers, and he said, these look really nice. And he just walks away, storming away, and upset and stuff. Bernard gets a little sassy with Bruce. So as Bernard just, walks away from that, Bruce's attention is caught by the TV that's going on in the waiting room, and he overhears this conversation about these two doctors discussing this new invention that is being created, that's funded by the Wayne family and stuff like that. So the interview is about Dr. Zeller and her creation called the Crown of Storms. And Dr. Hugo Strange is like trying to like debate that it's like a negative thing, while Dr. Zeller obviously is going to push that it's a positive thing. And what it does is like, it's a helmet that calms overstimulated regions of the brain, and then it excites the understimulated ones. And Dr. Hugo Strange is pretty much saying, in the debate, like, oh, this is a scam. It's not real. You're just doing, just taking the money and all this stuff, and it's not going to work. And also, Dr. Hugo Strange was like, if Van Gogh put on this helmet, he would never made Starry Night. And then Dr. Zeller is like, well, if Van Gogh did put on that helmet, the Crown of Storms, she claims that he would have painted 100 of Starry Nights. So that's pretty crazy. So the scene switches to a training session between Bruce and Damian, and like Bruce is still, I guess like in a daze, just thinking about what Dr. Zeller said in an interview about the Crown of Storms and all that stuff. And I guess like he's just like infatuated about what she said. And Damian's like, hey man, you're not even paying attention and stuff like that. So they get into like this huge, argument. I guess it's just like an argument, or Bruce is trying to spit some knowledge onto Damien and stuff like that during the, their training session, and they're talking about how Damien got accepted into Gotham U like 4 years early or something like that. He's like super young because he's super smart, and Bruce is letting him know like, hey, there's still some more things to learn out here. And Damien's like, I already learned everything I could ever learn. What are you talking about? And he's just saying stuff like, oh, you need to learn about literature and poetry and writing and reading and all this stuff. And then Bruce goes around and he says some weird stuff, man. He says the weird shit. And he's like, yeah, and there's also girls. Like, Bruce said that. Like, I mean, I guess that's like I guess Bruce would say that. I'm not sure, man, because it's like the past 2 books, it's like Bruce is like, he's getting written like he's like a father figure. So I guess for him to push like the focus on girls after he already told him about all the important foundation stuff for education and stuff, but then he goes around and says like, yeah, about girls. And I'm like, okay, like, I don't know, it's just weird. It's just weird dialogue. And then he goes on to say like, he's like, yeah, there's girls too, and there's smart girls out there too that you could learn about. And then it's just weird. And then Bruce looks at him and puts him against the wall, you know what I'm saying? And then Damien gets really upset, and he just had enough of it, and he kicks Bruce right in the nutsack. And then as he's like on the floor wincing in pain, getting kicked in the nuts, Alfred shows up, the spirit Alfred, and he was like, oh, did I ever do that to you? And then Alfred was like, yeah, you didn't do that to me. He said, you didn't do that to me physically, but you did it spiritually many times. That's pretty hilarious. So I skipped to a scene, and it's like Jim's calling Harvey, and he's pretty much telling Harvey, hey, Savage is planning something. You need to call Batman. We need to have a meeting, and we need to have a conversation about what Savage is trying to set up. There's another scene where it goes into Bruce again, and he's still like, thinking about what Dr. Sellers said into this about the Crown of Storms in that interview and stuff in that TV. And he, like I said, he's in the middle of this meeting, and they're like saying, talking to Bruce, and he's like looking out the building, and he's just, in deep thought about it. And he's like, yeah, we can increase our profits by 240%. And Bruce is like, I don't care about all of that, man. I'm not going to co-sign my family's name onto, any munitions, missiles, and tanks. He said, I'm not putting my name on anything military equipment. He said, but what's going on with this Crowns of Thorns and Crowns of Storms, my bad. He's just asking like what's the grant was used for and stuff like that. And he really honestly doesn't really know. But, they're like, yeah, you already funded it. We already, put money into it and stuff like that. So he doesn't know what's going on with that thing himself. So it's pretty wild. Goes back to the scene and where Batman, Harvey, and Jim meet up in the rooftop, and Jim's just letting him know like, hey, Savage is setting you and Robin up, and pretty much like claiming you guys as enemies against the Gotham police force, and to watch out and stuff, because you're gonna be framed as a cop killer. Commissioner Savage is gonna declare war on Batman and Robin. And as they were talking on top of the rooftop, all three of I guess Batman was just focusing on what was happening down on the street, and it was like this old lady walking her dog at night, and like this freaking truck was like speeding through the street, and like Batman was like, yeah, that truck is gonna hit that lady. And then they're both like, hey lady, get out the way. And as they fucking both look back, Batman did the Batman thing, and he disappeared. There's a scene that cuts to Wayne Experimental Science Building, and the Riddler breaks into it, and he knocks out 2 security guards, and he goes into this room that's like freaking heavily secured with a bunch of lasers and stuff, and is guarding the Crown of Storms. He's trying to steal it. So the Riddler presses a button when he's in that room, and he turns off all the lasers. And when he goes to go grab the helmet, he gets punched right in his fucking face, man. And it's Batman in this dope ass new stealth suit. So that was pretty cool. And they really start brawling for real. No, not really brawling, because like Riddler ain't really doing shit. Like, Batman's just beating the brakes off this man. Like, I'm not even lying. And the whole time that he's like fighting Batman or trying to fight him, Batman's beating the shit out of him. Riddler's like throwing him some riddles, and like the whole time Batman's like solving the riddles as he's kicking his ass. So it's actually pretty funny. And when the Riddler's on the ground, you know, all beat up and stuff, he grabs something like a paper out of his pocket, and he gives it to Batman. And he said he's been, you know, it took him hours or something like that. And Batman looks at it and he's like, "What is this? A groceries list?" And then Batman just gives him like some type of like shot that knocks him out, like sedates him and stuff like that. So then it skips to a scene where it's Hudson, the little kid from the, you know, earlier in the book that interviewed Miss Marjorie, that, you know, recorded everything. He's in this place called Printer's Row, and it's just a bunch of like, you know, writers and people that deal with the paper that puts out news and stuff. And he's gonna sell this story of this recording that he has of Commissioner Savage about him, I guess, like framing Batman. So, you know, it's pretty cool. He's like, talks to one of the editors or writers and stuff. He's like, "Hey, I got something that you may want to look at," pretty much. So after that, it skips back to a scene where Batman has the Riddler in his car, and he's just like, you know, woozy and shit like that. And he's just like, "Who put you up to this? Did Dr. Hugo Strange put you up to this because you're trying to steal it?" And I guess he's just trying to put two and two because, you know, Hugo Strange was definitely against the Crown of Storms, and Riddler is like trying to steal it. So he's like, oh, maybe, you know, he's trying to connect the two. But yeah. So the Riddler's like, you know, half up, and he's like, "Oh, what?" And he's like, "No." He said, "No, we're not working together." And the Riddler was like, you know, like saying some weird stuff. Uh, I guess he just like gibberish or something that it just did not make any sense. He was saying something like K harm and stuff like that, and then Batman's like, "What does that even mean, K harm?" Batman's like, "I don't understand what he's talking about. It definitely has to be gibberish." And then on the right side, the passenger side of the Batmobile, Alfred shows up again. And Alfred was pretty much telling Batman that it's not gibberish. He's pretty much saying that it was an anagram for something that was like a double negative or a twist or something like that. And the Riddler was trying to say Arkham because he was saying K harm. And he was like, yeah, I think he was trying to say Arkham. And then he, you know, put it together, and he was saying that Dr. Zeller has been using the device on patients in Arkham. So yeah, that's pretty much issue 3 of Batman is actually picking up now, which is pretty cool. I was a little worried at issue 2, but I'm happy that it is picking up now. I'm definitely to see what's going on with these Crowns of Storms. You know, why is the Riddler trying to, you know, steal it if he's not connected to Dr. Hugo Strange? So it's pretty interesting now. You know, it got something going on with that. And obviously the GCPD, you know, gonna start a war with Batman and Robin. So yeah, there's something setting up pretty good. So not too bad. Definitely better than the last book. I give this book a solid 6.0 out of 10. Catch you guys next time, all right? Peace.